How's it going? I'm Jared Gillis. Welcome to another All About RVs. Today, we're going to be looking at the ways that I've been called out, things that I have gotten wrong. And I'll admit when I've gotten something wrong, this isn't Know It All About RVs, it's just all about RVs. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into finding the ways that I'm wrong. So now to start off, we're gonna take a look at something that I said about 2 years ago about internet for RVing, how we weren't using Starlink internet and we were using Calyx because of price and it had been reliable for us at that time. Here's a couple of the comments. Rodney Sessions said, Starlink is the future, end of discussion. Edited comment too, so you know that he said exactly what he wanted to. Stop Spin Skydiving said, all these videos claiming they have the answer and it's not Starlink are always cell. There's RVers who travel where no cell service exists. Tell me how that's better than Starlink. If you're gonna use a cell service as unlimited, why not just hotspot your phone? Now you have your normal cell bill plus adding another bill for a cell internet solution for your RV. If you're going to pay on additional bill a month, why not make it Starlink and go where you want? If you're going cell, just hotspot the cell service you already pay for. And they weren't the only ones. There was a lot of comments saying about that same type of a thing, that I was completely wrong for not using Starlink, and why would you ever use anything else other than Starlink? You're not a real RVer if you're not off-grid far enough to only use Starlink. So was I right? Was I wrong? What are we using now? So I guess the only thing I really can say is, yeah, we have Starlink now. But there's a big but here. Let me explain. And there's actually a really big reason why we ended up getting Starlink and it wasn't RVing. But our primary internet service still for the RV is Calyx. So we still have this older device that we're using. I just found out this morning that there's an upgrade that I can do in this area, but this is still our main internet. The thing that pushed me over the edge to getting a Starlink is the emergency ability for having this, and that you can turn the service off. When we see storms go through or floods go through or a hurricane happen in an area and you lose all ability to have connection that are cell based because the cell towers went down as well, or there's power outages, you can still have Starlink in order to have communication so that you can still get word out and information in. So that was actually the biggest contributing factor for why we got Starlink. We've only used it twice for RVing since we've had it. We've had it, I think, just under a year. We would rather be prepared than not have anything at all. So having this to where you can have it turned off has been great. So it's definitely not our primary internet, for two main reasons. One is setup and the other is price. It gets pretty expensive if Starlink is your main internet. So to have unlimited, I think it's around $165 a month. Right now with the Calyx, we're paying $41.65 a month. And that's truly unlimited, no data caps. We're not throttled in any way that I've been able to find or see. So we've gone through a massive amount of data using this. And compared to the comment that told me just to use the hotspot on my phone, I don't have that much data for hotspotting off my phone for my computer, especially if you're living full time in an RV. You're gonna go through a lot more data than your usual cell carrier is going to give you for that. That's usually capped and throttled and not just unlimited. You might have unlimited on your phone, but not for hotspotting. Like the update that they just came out with is, before, the one big drawback is you had to use their devices. You couldn't take the SIM card out of this, put it in something else, otherwise they would shut down the service. So now they have a bring your own device where they send you the SIM card and you can use it in whatever else works on the T-Mobile network. It is T-Mobile based, and that is one of the drawbacks for having it work in really remote areas. And that's where the Starlink comes in. We leave it off almost all of the time, and if we're in a place that the internet has gone down or we've gone out far enough where we're away from cell-based internet, then we can just activate this on those times that we need it. And it's definitely not every month that we need to do that. Or we'll just do it for a very temporary weekend where we need internet in a place like that. So we do $50 instead of $165. But I did see where they have a refer a friend program. This is not sponsored by Starlink, but if you use that link, we each get a free month. But the selling factor for me is that you can put it on pause and not have to pay. It gives us that ability to have internet where we want to off-grid, but not have to pay for it every single month. And with the Calyx, we don't have anything to set up when we get to where we're going. That's the other part of the thing that we really like about it. If we had Starlink, we're either gonna have to mount it on top of the RV and make sure we park in places that we can get good signal to this dish, or it's something that we're gonna have to set up every time we move and go, and it's really not that big of a deal to set it up. It takes hardly any time at all. It's just I always try and minimize the amount of things that I have to set up for us to function inside of the RV. And not that I think that this is a big thing or that it happens all the time, but it's one less thing that I have sitting outside that I have to worry about for theft. If you also want to have less worries about scammers and theft online, that brings us to today's sponsor, which is Incogni. And they do just that, to stop the online scammers. Because I can't stand thieves and scammers. They're basically one and the same. Thieves thrive when there's an easy opportunity, and online scammers thrive when they get access to your personal information, and sadly, it's easier than ever to find our data. And it's constantly collected and sold by brokers, often without our knowledge. And that's where Incogni comes in. They help protect your privacy by scanning data broker databases for your personal information and submitting removal requests when the records are found. This can reduce unwanted marketing emails, text, and lower the risk when these data breaches happen, because it does seem like these data breaches happen all the time. That's why it's important to get our data off of these lists in the first place. When I signed up, I was impressed with just how quickly it started working. They had hundreds of requests sent out immediately, and within just a couple of days, half of those requests were met. And they don't just do it once. They'll scan again and then send out more requests to be removed from more lists. The scammers aren't going to stop, and Incogni's not going to stop as well. So if you're interested in getting this protection, there's going to be a link right down in the description. And if you use code AllAboutRVs, you can save 60% off the service and take control of your personal information that's out there for scammers to get a hold of. So back to Starlink and using the internet, because we've become so dependent on it. So yes, I would say that I was wrong about not having Starlink for RVing. I think having it on hand and not having to pay the monthly fee, not wasting all the money for that, because we spend $500 a year in Calix, and to have that same unlimited amount of internet for Starlink, we wouldn't even get through 3 months of that. But having it on hand for emergencies or those places where we need that internet and we don't have cell-based coverage, then this 100% is a great thing to have on hand. I love that they make it to where you can have that service turned off. It kind of makes it the best of both worlds. Now, next up is the test that I did on compressors. The compressors that you can air up your tires in your RV, you connect it to a battery, you get your tire back up to pressure so that you don't have it overheating and blowing out while you're on the road. So I did a test on how quickly they work, how well they do, how hot do they get, how high of a PSI can you take them to. So it kind of laid out all that. But the comment that I got in here is, forget all these on the list. They are outdated. Either go with DeWalt or Milwaukee cordless battery operated. Both are very good and get the job done on any tire much faster. That was from Wild West. Mark Reynolds says DeWalt 20 volt is the best. James said you left out the DeWalt and the Milwaukee cordless inflators. Reach is great as there's nothing connected and has no issue getting my tires to 110 PSI. So where did I go wrong here? Apparently I missed Milwaukee and DeWalt in that test. So let's give it a quick try. Let's see how this performs. So the test that we did before was a 65 to 80 to see about topping off a tire. Then we also took it from 0 to 80 to see how it would do filling an entire tire. So let's see real quick how the DeWalt performs and stacks up. Okay, quick test done. We can look at the numbers and see what it tells us. So from 65 to 80, topping a tire off when it's low, took it 6 minutes and 48 seconds. The Viair air pump that we carry, the 300P, was at 1 minute and 33 seconds. So quite the difference there. But from 0 to 80 PSI, the Viair did that in 8 minutes, and this did it in 25 minutes and 30 seconds. So 3 times longer. So it's not faster than that, but it absolutely wins in a few areas. The portability, not having to plug it in, and that was my biggest drawback, is I wanted to make sure that I always had an air compressor on hand, and I thought, if I had a dead battery, I don't have an air compressor. But on the side here, we have the 12 volt little connection, so it's just a plug into a socket, so it's not one that clamps onto the batteries, but it did the job, taking it from 70 to 80 PSI. Oh, and this connection on the side has a place to be able to air up larger things. So I'm going to see if there's an adapter to be able to use it on our paddle boards, the inflatable ones. That would come in really handy. So I'm going to stick with the Vi air pump because it packs so easy behind the seat of the truck, and I always want it in the truck. But I definitely see why people like this, being able to set your PSA, walk away, and have it inflate the tire. Definitely not the fastest, but most convenient. Okay, on to the next way I was wrong. Okay, this one's also from a test that I did trying to find the best coffee solutions for RVing on grid and off grid. If you get the idea, there's different situations where you'd want different type of coffee makers. But this one is big fail by not including the Aero Press. That's from Frosty Jim. Also from Koozie Hiker, need to consider the Aero Press. David Monk, like so many others, we use an Aero Press, which combined with a hand-operated burr grinder provides the perfect fresh coffee with very little energy consumption and easy cleanup. Definitely a winner there. Glenn Bishop said an Aero Press really should have been part of this comparison. Initial cost, compactness, energy cleanup, it's very competitive in every category. I didn't think about it because I had the French press, I also had drip coffee, I had a bunch of different coffee makers. I was jittery for weeks. So let's give it a try. So this looks pretty simple. You have a paper filter that goes in there, then that twists onto the Aero Press. You put your coffee grounds in the top, just one scoop. Then you fill it with hot water up to the number 4. They give you a little stir stick to stir it in there. So you put the plunger in, you let it rest for a little bit to help with that brew, and then you press it down. So it's getting a moderate amount of pressure to brew the coffee. Yeah, this definitely should have been on the list. It's a very smooth cup of coffee. I would say that it's definitely better than the French press because it's a smoother tasting coffee and it's way easier to clean up. So the criteria we were looking at was, is it good for off-grid power? Is it good for low water cleanup? And what was the cup of coffee like? This is a winner in all 3 of those categories because it has those paper filters at the bottom. So when you're done, you're gonna clean up. You can pretty much just pop that right out and there's not much left behind. A quick little rinse and you're good to go. There's also a metal filter if you wanted to, so you didn't have to use paper every time, but the paper is definitely easier to clean. So I'd put it right there next to the pour over. This and the pour over are my favorite. I would probably say that I'll put links down in the description to everything that we talked about today as usual, but I would say rather than the original, I liked the idea of the XL one. So I got the original size, but it's just a little bit short on the amount of coffee that you get out of it, but I'm sure the XL would be much better in that, but yeah. Good cup of coffee. But if you have a way that you love to make coffee inside the RV, because it doesn't have to be big and bulky and take up a ton of water to have to clean up, you love the way that you make coffee, let me know how you like to do that. So anyways, I think that's gonna do it for today. These are just a few ways that you could look at doing things different in the RV and some suggestions that I think are good suggestions in there. So as always, if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will. See you next video. Take care.